This is from the Chairperson Committee on Delegated Legislation, the Honorable Kamket. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Scrap Metal Dealers Rules 2022 laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, June 8, 2022, and pursuant to provisions of Section 18 of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013, annuls the Scrap Metal Dealers Rules 2022, published as legal notice number 84 of 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Cabinet Secretary for Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development published the Scrap Metal Rules on the 5th of May 2022. The rules were submitted to the Clerk of the National Assembly on 26th of May and tabled on 31st of May. The rules, Mr. Speaker, seek to regulate dealings in scrap metal and provide for licensing of scrap metal dealers as a condition for lifting a moratorium on dealings in scrap metals issued on 20th January 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, the committee examined the Scrap Metal Rules 2022 against the Constitution, the Interpretation and General Provisions Act, Scrap Metal Act 2015, as well as the Statutory Instruments Act. Scrutiny, Mr. Speaker, was undertaken following publication of the rules. Having examined the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, sir, and the other laws, the committee made the following observations. Number one, Mr. Speaker, the rules were tabled in Parliament outside the statutory timelines contemplated under Section 11(1) of the Statutory Instruments Act. Furthermore, the rules were published in the Gazette on 5th of May, laid on the table of the House 31st of May, being the 9th sitting day since publications, hence out of the statutory timeline contemplated under Section 11(1) of the Statutory Instruments Act. Number two, Mr. Speaker, sir, Part 2 of the rules contain provisions on the Council, including nomination and qualification of appointment as the chairperson and council members, which is ultra vires, Mr. Speaker, Part 2 of the Scrap Metals Act, which properly deals with the matters relating to the council, and therefore this is contrary also to Section 13A of the Statutory Instruments Act 2013. The explanatory memorandum, Mr. Speaker, sir, submitted indicates that the ministry subjected the rules to public participation and sought for comments from various stakeholders. But the memorandum fails to give evidence, Mr. Speaker, sir. There was no evidence of the consultation. And we know, Mr. Speaker, how important public participation is in matters such as this. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, on the matter of the regulatory impact statement, the regulatory making authority, Mr. Speaker, sir, further failed to submit to the committee the regulatory impact statement as required under Section 6 of the Statutory Instruments Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, having examined, therefore, these rules against the Constitution, the Interpretation and General Provisions Act, Cap 2, the Scrap Metals Act 2015, the Statutory Instruments Act number 23 of 2013, the committee recommends that this House annuls in entirety the scrap metal rules for non-conformity with the Constitution, the Scrap Metals Act, and the Statutory Instruments Act. Mr. Speaker, sir, with those few remarks, therefore, I beg to move and ask my friend, Honorable Owen Bayer, to second.
The Honorable Mutembei.
I wish the people would.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much and for giving me the opportunity to second the Honorable Kamket on the regulations. I support his position and his committee position that they be annulled on the basis that the statutory timelines were not met. Mr. Speaker, this Parliament gives the executive and members of the executive ample time to present any regulations in time so that they can be looked at in this House before they take effect. But when executive fails to do that, I think it is important that Parliament puts its foot down and does the right thing by ensuring that statutory timelines are followed to the latter. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, a very fundamental item here that is constitutional, Article 10 and 118 of the Constitution about public participation was not undertaken. There is no evidence that there was public participation in these regulations on scrap metal. And therefore, in the light of that, in the absence of proper public participation by dealers and other stakeholders, therefore it is right that this Parliament says the law must be followed by the executive, and whoever has the law and role to make